We all have this sort of mental map of how the economy is supposed to work. But what if that map, the one we've been following for centuries, is actually leading us down the wrong path? Today, we're going to look at a huge shift in how we think about the economy, moving from a model that's all about endless growth to one focused on something very different: sustainable well-being.
So let's just jump right in with a really big question. What if the very blueprint we use to build and understand our economic world is fundamentally flawed? I mean, that's a question that challenges pretty much everything we've been taught about progress and prosperity.
All right, here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at the economic blueprint we're all familiar with. Then, we'll start to uncover some of its hidden costs. After that, we'll zoom out for a much bigger picture, and that'll force us to redefine what progress even means. And finally, we'll look at a more sustainable path forward.
Okay, let's begin with what we know, right? The classical view of the economy. This is the model that has shaped our world for generations, and it's built on some really core ideas about how we produce things, consume things, and how money moves around.
So this is it, the classical model in a nutshell. It's basically a self-contained loop. You've got households over here, and they provide labor and capital, and you've got businesses over there, and they use that stuff to make goods and services. Money just flows between them in this perfect little circle. Businesses pay us for our work, and we use that money to buy stuff from them. It's presented as this clean, tidy, perpetual motion machine.
So here's the key takeaway. In classical economics, the whole system is about exchange. It's all about how these three things, land, labor, and capital, are mixed together to create products that people buy. And the main goal, the only real goal in this framework, is just to maximize wealth and keep this cycle growing bigger and bigger forever. But, as neat and tidy as that little loop looks, it starts to raise some pretty serious questions. What if this beautiful, simple model is leaving something absolutely massive out of the picture? What are the hidden costs of seeing the world this way?
I mean, really think about that. The model we just saw is a totally closed system. It's like a snow globe. Nothing comes in from the outside, and nothing ever leaves. It's just this perfect little engine of economic activity running on its own. But is that really how the world works?
And this is where we hit two giant, glaring holes in the theory. First, where do all the raw materials that fuel this entire machine actually come from? And second, once we're done using all the stuff we buy, where does all the waste, the pollution, the trash, the heat, where does it all go? The classical model just doesn't have an answer.
So let's break down these flaws, because they're huge. First, nature gets shrunk down to just one word: land. It's just another input, like a factory or a worker. This automatically assumes that natural resources are infinite, that will never run out. And maybe most importantly, it totally ignores the cost of pollution and waste. The environment is treated like an infinite supply closet and an infinite trash can, completely separate from the economy itself.
This is where a totally new way of thinking comes into the picture, and it offers a radically different map. It's called ecological economics, and it puts the environment right back where it belongs, at the very center of everything.
And this image just says it all, doesn't it? On the left, you have that old model, the economy floating in a void, totally separate from nature. But on the right, you have the ecological view. The human economy is just a small part, a subsystem, that is entirely contained within the much larger environment. You can see materials and energy flowing in from nature, and all our waste and heat flowing back out. This isn't just a small adjustment. It is a complete 180-degree paradigm shift.
This quote really just nails the core idea. Our economy doesn't exist in a vacuum. It is fundamentally dependent on two critical services from the planet: its ability to give us resources and its ability to absorb all the stuff we throw away. If either one of those systems breaks down, our economy breaks down right along with it. Now, a new map requires some new vocabulary, and the most important term here is natural capital. This isn't just land anymore. It's the entire stock of a country's natural wealth: the forests, the clean water, the stable climate, the fertile soil. This is the real foundation that all our man-made capital and our entire economy is built on. So, if we're using a totally new map, it only makes sense that we need a new compass, right? For decades, our main economic compass has been GDP. But is it actually pointing us toward true north, or is it just pointing us toward more? So, GDP, gross domestic product, is really just a measure of spending. It adds up the total price tag of all the finished goods and services made in a country. And for a very long time, if a country's GDP was going up, everyone agreed that was the ultimate sign of a healthy, successful nation.
But let's really challenge that. Does spending more money always mean our lives are better? I mean, think about it. If there's a massive hurricane, GDP goes up because of all the money spent on rebuilding. If crime rates go up, GDP goes up because we spend more on prisons and security systems. Is that really what we mean by progress?
This graph tells such a powerful story. That dotted line going up and up is US GDP per person. It shows exactly what we've been told is progress, a steady climb for over 50 years. But now look at the solid line. That's the genuine progress indicator, or GPI. It tries to account for all those hidden costs. And what it shows is that since around the mid-1970s, our actual well-being has pretty much flatlined, even while the economy, on paper, kept getting bigger. That growing gap between the two lines, that's the price of our growth.
So what's going on here? This table makes it super clear. GDP is like a calculator that only has a plus button. Every time money is spent, it's a positive. It completely ignores valuable unpaid work, like volunteering or taking care of family. And it totally ignores all the negatives. The cost of pollution, losing natural resources, crime, you name it. GPI, on the other hand, tries to be a real balance sheet. It adds the good stuff, but it also subtracts the bad stuff. It's trying to measure what we've actually gained versus what we've lost along the way.
Okay, so once you see this new picture of the economy and this new way of measuring things, you realize the destination has to change. The goal can't just be endless growth anymore. It has to be something much deeper, something like sustainability.
This is the classic definition of sustainable development. And when you get right down to it, it's about ethics. It's about fairness. Not just among us today, but between our generation and every single one that comes after us. It means we have to live off the interest that our planet provides without burning through the principle. So, what does this sustainable path actually look like in practice? Well, it really boils down to these 4 crucial steps. First, we have to accept the new map. The economy exists inside the environment. Second, we have to truly value our natural capital. Third, we need to use better yardsticks, like the GPI, to get a real picture of our progress. And finally, we have to shift our ultimate goal from simply more growth to genuine, lasting human well-being.
And that really brings us to the final and maybe most important question. Now that we have a better map, one that shows us the real boundaries of our world, can we be smart enough to design an economy that doesn't just grow, but that actually thrives sustainably and fairly, all within the physical limits of our one and only planet? Honestly, that is the defining challenge of our time.